Hello everybody, and welcome to Judy's Creations in Crochet. And today is May the 22nd, 2025. And I want to welcome all of you. There have been a fair number of new subscribers lately, enough to take me over the 1,700 subscribers, which makes me very happy. And I think those new subscribers are a result of the live that Lynn-Ann and I did last week. I feel like I've been gone forever and I have so much to catch up. Even though I was here last week, it was a live and not one of my regular videos. But to all those that are new, welcome. I hope you enjoy what you see here. And if there are any of you that are new and haven't subscribed, I appreciate if you would. And to all my returning viewers, you know how much I appreciate you coming back week after week after week and participating in all the mouths. There's always a mal going on here. And in the summer, there will be my summer cow. So welcome to everybody. And I'm going to try to make this a wee bit shorter. You know how hard that is for me. But I know that my battery on this is very low. If I don't get it completed, I may have to do this in 2 sections. We'll see. The battery will tell me when it's ready to give up. Hopefully it will last. So we always start with what am I wearing? And I am wearing something called the Tuttle, T-U-T-T-L-E sweater. I made this last year, and fortunately, because of the new app I am using, I did have it recorded. I went in Ravelry, and it surprises me that I did not make a project page, so I'm going to have to put one there. It is a pattern, a paid-for pattern on Ravelry, and the designer is Emily Marie Davies. And I have made at least one, if not 2 other patterns by this designer. So I think maybe it's time to contact her and see if I can do a focus on her in the upcoming months. So it is a top-down sweater. I'll stand up. And it is very simple. It has what I call cross stitches, the double cross stitch actually, or is it triple? I think it's triple, around to give a little bit of design in the neck area. As I said, it is a top down, so then you break here for the sleeves, and I actually did a good job of getting it in the right place for a change. And then it's just double crochets all the way down. And the yarn I used, I'm pretty sure from the look in the picture, that it is a Ravenswood yarn. I had several skeins of the same yarn, and I really like it because it's pale purples and pale pinks, and there's just a hint of a pale teal in there as well. So I would have made this last year. So that's what I'm wearing, and I just got it out this weekend from having been put away for the winter. And what else do we owe? Before I go any farther, I want, because I didn't get to do this last week, I received some happy mail in the mail, and it came in a Canada Post box, just like this. And there was a lovely thank you note in it. Beautiful paper. I just want to show you this. I like dragonflies. And quite a lovely note. And as I told the sender, the note would have been enough. This was a thank you for something I sent to Tammy Tammy Sabo, who is in Ontario, maybe 40-45 minutes away from me. And this is the yarn she sent me. Isn't it beautiful? And she went to a lot of bother. She had a local yarn shop in her area, and she particularly went looking for sparkle. She said there wasn't a hint of sparkle anywhere in the store, but she was able to find, I guess this is the only one that was purple, and it is superwash merino wool, 288 meters or 315 yards. It says it's a number 3 on the label, but I'm inclined to think excuse me, I'm inclined to think it might be a sport weight with that many yards, and it isn't quite as heavy as some DKs I've worked with. But that is beautiful, Tammy, and I think I'm going to probably make a cowl out of it. It should be lovely worked up. It is, it's tonal, variegated. It's not a lot of different colors, but it isn't exactly tonal, but it's lovely. Shades of purple in there. And thank you very, very much, Tammy. It certainly wasn't necessary, but I definitely do appreciate it. And by the way, the color name of this this is from a company called Yarns from Heaven, and the color is iris, and I certainly do appreciate it. And a little bit of a story, and I meant to take some pictures to go along with it, but I didn't. Along with that, she sent me some stitch markers, and I'm sure you've never seen stitch markers like these. They must have been made locally. See, it says crochet. See the crows? These are, they're the lobster claw hook, and they are crows. There are some other things in there too, but there are a couple of crow stitch markers, and then there's some gems in there, the light bulb markers, and so on. And you might think, why on earth would somebody send you crows? Well, that's because she knows that Chatham has a reputation as being the crow capital of Ontario, at least. And why is that? Because we are infested with crows. Crows are a big problem here in our city. Because I live backed up to a field, you can imagine the crows I had in my area. And the crows were so bad that I don't know if it was the city, the municipality, the garbage disposal people, I don't know who it was, that provided every, and I mean every single household with a garbage can that has a lid that just flaps. It's attached, flaps open. Every single person, free of charge, received one of these garbage cans, and instructions that you don't overload it so that the lid can stay closed, because the crows are pretty smart. They seem to know the neighborhood that has garbage pickup each day, and they would be terrible, and they would tear garbage apart, and especially if you just left out plastic bags, and it would be all up and down the street. And if you had a can without a lid, they'd have that torn apart. It was awful. And so the city gave everybody one of these canisters. I already had one similar that was smaller, and I still use it. I keep the bigger one because I don't generate as much garbage as most households. I keep the bigger one, I store things in it, and one day I may have to use it. But you can really see the decline in crows in the city. They aren't gone. And because I live, like I said, backed up to a field, I still see crows. But they're out there on garbage days just looking the best they can. And everybody uses those new canisters we were given. So that was quite a little joke from Tammy. Thank you. They are definitely original. And I'm surprised that somebody makes crow stitch markers. And we are so popular for it that we have every fall what they call Crow Fest. Can you imagine that? We have Crow Fest in the fall. Anyway, thank you for that very much, Tammy. I certainly do appreciate your gift. Now, next I want to move on to finished objects, and I'm really happy with myself this week. The first item I'm going to show you, I will do very quickly because it is my item for the butterfly mal for April or May, and pink and gray, and I finished an asymmetrical triangle, and that's all I'm going to say about it for right now. I will tell you more about it on May 31st when I do the slideshow, but that is done. And I'm just going to put it aside for our discussion in a couple weeks. Second of all, I had time on a long telephone conversation, actually two, to finish the blanket that I was working on for this month. And this is a blanket made with Bernat blanket patchwork. And it is exactly the dimensions 30 by 40. I don't know how I hit it exact because that's not usually what happens for me. But this is nice and warm. But I'm going to switch over to using the number 3 and number 4 acrylics in my stash for the next one. So I'm going to probably start something this weekend and be able to take it with me next Monday when we go to the hospital again. So that's a second finished object this week. And I have a third finished object. I made the pattern Glacier by Karen Hooley. And if you remember, a few weeks back, do I still have that yarn here on the table? No, I must have put it away. I had a skein of yarn that was from Arkansas Fibers. I don't think I have another one just like it. And I had, about 5 or 6 minis that I wanted to go with it. And I asked for your opinion. Well, then I caked up that yarn, and I discovered that that yarn was extremely busy, and the predominant color coming through in the cake was pink. And I really didn't want a pink one because I knew that I wouldn't wear it, and I really wanted to make something for myself at the time. So I went and got a different cake of yarn that was a little more subtle, and it had speckling of mostly blue, purple, and a little bit of teal. And so here is the yarn I used, and I used the purple mini to go on it. So this is Glacier. It starts at one end and increases to the middle, and then immediately starts decreasing out to the other end. And then you just attach the other color, go around the corner, and you have this 3-row border to put on it. This is a very simple pattern. It's double crochets and what I call windows, so very easy. It gives you a little extra design at the edge. And this is a very simple border to put on. and one skein project. Remember, we talked about one skein projects, and it works up very quickly. That's why I was able to get it done. Now, mind you, it's not 1 week, it's 2 weeks since I last was able to show you anything, because last week was totally about the live. So I got 3 things done, completed in the last 2 weeks. And this is going to stay in my private collection. It is certainly long enough. I didn't bring it down. I wish I had. I didn't put it on the table, did I? No, I didn't. I had a substantial amount left. I weighed it, and I believe there were 30 some grams in the cake that was left over. So I think I could have at least put one more pattern on the increase and one more pattern on the decrease. I probably could have done more than that with this, but I wouldn't have wanted to do any more than that because I didn't have as much left in this, and I wouldn't have wanted to run out of this. So anyway, it's a nice size just the way it is. I think I used a smaller hook than she said. I tend to do that with most patterns because I'm a loose crocheter, I believe, and I use more yarn than I should in most patterns. So that's a little bit of a... we don't need to have them both on at the same time. I don't know what yarn this was. It is nice and soft, but it's something I just pulled off the shelf in the cupboard. Remember, I told you I had caked up like several dozen yarns way back when I first started caking things before I realized you shouldn't. And label was not there. I thought there was, but the label made no sense. So this is very much an old yarn from way back. I wish I knew what it was, and I was intending this for Kathy's Mal, but the pattern is not new to me. The yarn is new, so maybe I could send it in. We'll see. I'll talk to Kathy about that. So that's the things I have completed in the last 2 weeks. Now I have started on, get a load of this. This is not me. I started on 2 patterns on the weekend. I started one and decided I wanted to do the other one at the same time. So one, I didn't bring either one to show you. First of all, one is, remember for May, I had a gradient cake that started gray and went pink and whites out to the outside edge. Well, I started a Granny Meets Virus with that, and I'm working on it. And at the same time, I'm working on a practice version, because remember, we learned our lesson for the cow that Kathy and I will be doing this summer. And you'll hear more about that when the time comes. But as you know, I've done a crochet along in the past several summers, and I will do another one this summer. And I wanted to test the pattern before we brought it to you. So I'll have a sample to show you. And what I can tell you is that I am using a skein of, I have it down here. Of course, I don't pick up the right. I have a skein of this yarn I really, really like called Cosmic Confetti Fingering from EFA. That's Expression Fiber Arts, for those of you that are new. I am a total believer in their yarn. I am not affiliated in any way with anybody, but I love their yarn. I love the quality and the variety and the colors. So I have a lot of their yarn. And I used this yarn before in a creamy white color. I had a partial skein. Oh, here it is. I did this in a shawl earlier in the year. And now I'm using this skein. And this is what I'll tell you about the crochet along. I'm using this yarn as the base or main color, and I'm using 5 or 6 mini skeins with it. And this is called Dark Hollows. And I don't know what color to tell you it is, maybe purple, because when I put their blue beside it, their navy, it is not navy. It is more purple, and I thought I was buying black, but they did come out with black, and look at that. Oh, I absolutely love that black, and I can't wait to do something with this. And my thinking is that the Mal, it's actually, we're calling it a crochet challenge. I am doing with Lynanne. As you saw, the yarns I am planning to use, but I'm thinking of doing a second one where I do option 2, and this becomes the main color, and then all the little ribs throughout it would be bright, probably sparkle minis. And I have some bright sparkle minis, rainbow color. So I think that might be in my future. But anyway, I'm working on that. And surprise, surprise, I'm working back and forth between the two. I've never, ever done that before. But I actually spend part of the evening doing a little on both of them. And while we're talking about cosmic confetti, I was actually looking through them, trying to figure something else out. I don't know what anymore, but I pulled this is the only one I have one skein of, and I was trying to think, what should I do with it? It's called Maple Mist. It is a burnt orange color, but not true orange, rusty. Anyway, I have one of these, and I thought I was going to pull out a number of, actually I was thinking of this for our Cal in the summer, and I was going to pull out some fall colored minis to go with it. It really didn't work. So I was looking around. This is not usually what I do, but remember we talked about me pulling random skeins out of my stash every so often and getting ideas of something to make with it. Well, I didn't just randomly pick this one out. I was planning something to do something with it. I didn't know what, but I went looking through my stash and I found this. And I think the two of these would be great together. I'd like to get your opinion, but I really, really like, let me get the best of that dark brown out there. It's got the light color in it too, but a fair bit of the darker. And I think I would like to put these two together in something. Now, keep in mind, I'm not a blanket person, although that's not enough for a blanket. I'm not into hats or mitts or socks. And I would really like to think of something, probably a shawl, an asymmetrical shawl, maybe a wrap, that kind of thing. But maybe you have an idea of a pattern that these would turn up lovely in. And if so, please make a comment in the comment box as to something you think these would be lovely in. It won't be right away because I have a number of things on my plate for the foreseeable future, but maybe by the fall, be a good time to work on that, would be in the fall. So if you have some ideas, I'd love to hear them. By the way, anything I mentioned, the patterns I've shown you, this top, all of them will be in the description box below. Okay. It's time for our plan for today, and that is to talk about yarn from Indie Dyers in Ontario. Now, we've been doing yarns across Canada, and now we've already done British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba. Now we are in Ontario. Ontario is, I think Quebec is the largest in size, and then Ontario. But Ontario is the largest in population. And of course, that's because Toronto is the biggest city in Canada, is down there. Now, you're going to get a teeny bit of a geography lesson. You know how I am. And since it is my home province, I wanted to say a little bit more about it. So, you saw the whole of Ontario. It's really, Northern Ontario is humongous. Most of the population is down here in this area. You see Toronto there. You see Ottawa. Ottawa is our nation's capital. Toronto's the capital of Ontario. And Ottawa is right on the border. It's on a river, actually. And across the border, you're in Quebec, and the city of Hull is across the border. So what I want to tell you is, I want to get that stuff off the screen. I'm going to mention Eastern Ontario later, and Eastern Ontario, see the red line outlines the province. Eastern Ontario is this way. By the way, 4 of the 5 Great Lakes are, it's backwards to me, are in Ontario. Lake Superior, Lake Huron, Lake Erie, and Lake Ontario. The only one of the 5 Great Lakes is Lake Michigan, is entirely in Michigan. Eastern Ontario is out this way. Don't know that number. Sorry about that. So, down here is where I live. And I keep saying Southwestern Ontario, and I'll explain. Up here around Toronto is called Central Ontario. And just south of there is Southern Ontario, which extends to about London. Then this part is Southwestern Ontario. And see where that red sort of points out, the red line? I'm not too far away from the point there. And Windsor is down here, and you should know that Windsor is actually south of Detroit, which is across the border in Michigan. So I'm going to be showing a couple of other maps with numbers on them to indicate where people are. But where I am, you can see I'm very close to Lake Erie. I'm very close to Windsor. This little lake is called Lake St. Clair. I'm very close to that as well. So you can see where I live down here. I'm surrounded by water. So that's my little geography lesson. Toronto is, I'm going to say, 3.5 hours away from me. Driving, that is. All right, so let's get, because we're running out of time here, let's get to the yarn companies. Now, first of all, I have 15. Somehow I lost one of them. I don't know where it went to. So I have 14 yarn companies to cover. And I made the decision to break it into 2 weeks. So we're going to do 7 this week and 7 next week when we talk about Ontario yarn. Now, I'm going to, for the moment, flash a picture up here. And you're going to see the numbers 1, 2, and 3. And I'll come back to that. Number 1, I did not number Ottawa. You can see where Ottawa is, and you can see where Toronto is, so I haven't numbered them. Number 1 is Sudbury. We'll come back to that in a little bit. So the first yarn company I want to talk about is Altered Skeins, and I'm only going to jump over them because they were an Etsy store, and I have some yarn from them. They are in Ottawa, or they were in Ottawa. But when I went to Etsy last night to look at what they had, to tell you about them, they had a notice that says they have closed their store. I could not get the sense if this was a temporary vacation or if they had just decided to go out of business. But here is the yarn I have from Altered Skeins with a mini. There was nothing on this. There may have been one in the package when I got it, but there definitely isn't one now. And this is 80% merino superwash and 20% nylon. This is amethyst. I don't know, but this is a good example of a variegated and speckled yarn. It's pretty. I like it. The only thing I could think to make with it would be another one of these. It's perfect for socks. If you're a sock maker, this would be lovely. And you have the matching heel and toe. But I don't wear socks, so I'm not about to make a pair of socks. And I'm thinking that if I did make another one of these called Glacier, I would not put the purple border on it. I already have one with a purple border, but there's lots of colors in here. And my thinking was I might pick out the teal. It does have navy and it does have pink. So if I decide to make another one of these, which is the only thing I could think to do, I would, lots of minis here, I would choose a different mini to go with it. Otherwise, I mean, it is a full skein. I could make some other kind of item and maybe put it with a full skein of purple or some other color. But right now, I haven't figured that out. Next company. Next company is Amaranth Fibers. And they are in Eastern Ontario. That's why I showed you where it is. It's just Eastern Ontario is to the east of Toronto. There's a small area there between there and the border. And where, I don't know. They are amaranthfiberscom. As you know, I'll put all of these in the description box. She was mostly a knitter, and then started spinning, and it was spinning that made her become a fiber fanatic, and that eventually led to dyeing yarn, and she got into it in 2018, and she's mostly inspired by nature. She carries yarn and spinning fiber, obviously, known as roving. She has fingering, DK, kid silk with mohair and mulberry silk in it. She carries super bulky. She has minis. And she has very, very slim amount of yarn on her site. I think what she does is work collections at certain points throughout the year, and right now she has a summer collection there with some very, very lovely pastel colors in them. And I'm sorry I forgot to make note of the price of her basic, but I'm sure it was in the $30 range. And like I said, there wasn't a lot of choice. She does these collections, and I think she really posts when she has a new collection out, and every season or a special occasion is when she comes out with another collection. Now, here is what I got a while back. It's no longer on her site. There is her card, and it has all her details. If you can get a snapshot of that. And the yarn that I got, I just couldn't refuse. It really, really enticed me. Isn't that beautiful? I had two skeins of this. I may have had something else from her as well, and I've used it, but this is all I had in my collection at this point. And I think I showed this to you not too long ago. Now, this is perfect yarn for what's called planned pooling. I am going to do one of my videos on variegated yarns and planned, and what's the other one? Planned and something. There's two kinds of pooling, and I was using the wrong term, and I can't think of the other word. I'm sorry. Anyhow, I think this is gorgeous, and I want to probably make a shawl out of just these two by themselves, and I may use the planned pooling. Anyhow, that's amaranth. We got to move on here. Next page. Next we get to feisty fibers, and feisty fibers I don't have a location on, so sorry, but you know, a lot of them don't tell you where they are. Now I ran into feisty fibers at the Knit City Yarn Fiber Knit City Fiber Festival last spring. And again, they don't have a lot, and their base sock yarn is $34. And they also have DK, they have merino and linen, they have worsted. Oh, by the way, feistyfibers.com is their website. Interesting, they had embroidery yarn, which I'm not too sure what that is. You might want to look it up. And something that will interest some of you is they had mini skein grab bags, 2 different sizes to choose between. So if you are looking to get a collection of minis, this might be a good way to do it. It seemed quite reasonable. And they have mystery bags. And I know some of you really, really like mystery bags, so you might want to check them out for either a mini skein grab bag or mystery bags. And they have a full description of each of those. And they don't, again, these Ontario ones, you run into them somewhere and they have some beautiful yarn, but I think a lot of them are like a single person and they can only handle so much. And oftentimes they do it on the side. They have a full-time job and they do this after hours. But these are the 2 I got. They are a merino linen blend. Not my usual choice, but these do not really feel, linen usually feels stiff, and these don't feel too bad. Merino linen, and I thought they were a great pair. And they are 90% merino, only 10% linen, 400 yards. This one's called Avalon, and this one's called Don't Call Me Babe. And that seems to go together pretty well. And I'm really looking forward to using them. And if I decide to add anything else, I may go with that color. But I think I'll just make a shawl with these 2. That should be fine. So that's feisty fibers. So now I'm going to talk about a little larger company, and I'm going to put the map up again. Frosted Stitch is in Sudbury, and that's where the number 1 is on the map. Okay, I'll put it down. And Frosted Stitch, if any of you are on Instagram any amount of time, you will see Frosted Stitch quite often. They have a good selection of fingering, sport, DK, worsted, and bulky. They have a Surrey alpaca silk lace. In the fingering and worsted, they have both merino silk yak. They have a tweed in both, or maybe that's in their DK. They also have a merino cashmere silk, I'm believing. And they have sock sets, and they have mini sets, mystery mini sets. So again, if you like a good mystery, their basic yarn starts at $36 a skein. And right now things are at 40%. The American dollar has weakened a little bit. Not us. We are not getting better. The American dollar has been weakening. So I'm trying to think just over $25. 25 would be 35 and theirs is 36. So that would be close. I have had again, the frosted stitch, besides being on Instagram, was at the Fiber Festival last spring. And I have a few of theirs here. I have had others, I think, in the past and used them. And this will show you a variety of colors. They are all merino nylon because that's what I tend to buy. And they are all 100 grams, says 463 yards. And I'll show you these two first. There is a green that's called Evergreen, fingering, of course. It's coming across lighter. It's a little darker here. See, the light is shining on it and brightening it up, but the dark side, the bottom side, is more the color. That's one of theirs. Of course, I wouldn't get away without a purple, would I? This is called Faded Plum. A nice purple, and I'm sure I'll put it with something. I have plenty of things that I could put a purple with. And this one I know I bought at the show because it's called Harbourfront. It was, Harbourfront is Toronto's Harbourfront Hotel is what we were at. And so this was a special dye job just for the show last spring. And you can see fair bit of sprinkles. And again, she does different lines at different times of the year, has quite a decent selection. And this has quite a bit of different colors. So this is a little bit special because it was a special dye job for that show. Oh, there's some red, reddy orange in there. So that is Frosted Stitch. They're a little bit better known than the others I've mentioned, and I didn't write, oh, the frostedstitch.ca is their website. Okay, next I'm moving on as quickly as I can to the next one, which is called Full Moon. And Full Moon is in Barrie. Very quickly, I'm going to put the map up again. And Barrie is just north of Toronto. I'm not sure, an hour and a half. I don't go that way. I'm just guessing. But you can see number 2 just north of Toronto in that map. Full Moon is fullmoonfibers.ca. And they have lace weight, fingering sock, sport, DK, worsted. They have DK sock sets. They have minis. And they have something called sock tubes. And that is where they've taken the yarn and cranked out on a knitting machine a tube. And that way, if you want to order one of those, you have the sock already knit for you. And if you watch Needles at the Ready, they do this a lot. You can add a cuff and a toe. It's usually big enough. You can split it in two. And then there is a way, I'm not a knitter, but you can cut in for the heel. And Needles at the Ready do that all the time for the socks they make. So they carry these sock tubes. Now, to give you an idea, their minis are $9 a skein. Their sock, the plain sock, is $34 a hank. Their fingering is $30 a hank. And they have some DK sock sets, which would have one skein main and two contrasting or complementary mini skeins, and they are $48. So that is pretty good. I'm not too sure what else I can tell you. I have had full skeins from Full Moon Fibers before. I think I've used them. But what I have still that I can show you is I have two of these sock sets. And I bought two on purpose to make sure I had enough to put them together and probably make either a shawl, because I have 860 some yards here. I might make a shawl, or I might make one of those very big infinity scarves. This is called the Solar Sock Mini Skeins. It is 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon, 73 yards in a skein, 20 grams. And there are 6 in one of these packages. And again, you can see I would love the black with the nice contrasting bright splotches. And again, something that I could do. Oh, I know, it's planned or assigned. And it's assigned pooling that I'm likely going to do. But again, I'll talk more about what that means and everything a little later. By summertime, we'll talk about that. But that's what I got from Full Moon. Okay, moving on to the next company is Green Button Jar. And you've heard me talk about them before. I did buy some of theirs at the Fiber Festival, but Green Button Jar is in Windsor. I'll put the map up, and number 3 is Windsor, but I did show you it's way, way down there near the tip. And she is on Etsy. So I will try to get the link to her Etsy store. She has sock sets. She has fade sets. She has mohair and Surrey. She has DK, and she has worsted. I think she had something like 270 some items listed on her page in Etsy. And hers starts at $30 a skein. And I got this skein at the Fiber Festival last year. Nice bright pink. And it is 84% merino and 16% stellina, 525 yards. I think the stellina is sparkling there a bit. So, and tones of pink. So I'm not too sure yet what I will make with it. I wonder if it'd be interesting as something like this with a dark, maybe black on it. I'm not sure. I don't wear a lot of pink, but I know someone that loves this color, although can't use wool. The other thing, and I've had this from her for a while, is I have 2 skeins of her zebra yarn. Now, one of these, yeah, this one is fingering, 80% merino, 20% nylon, 400 yards. And I really want to stitch one of these and find out what these zebras look like when you stitch them up, when you crochet them. But this one is it says it's a DK weight, 246 yards. But I'm thinking, boy, it looks awful close to worsted weight. So I'm thinking, you know what I should do is just work this up, not a busy pattern, a very plain pattern, and make a cowl. This would be enough to make a cowl. And then I would see how these zebras work up. So that's Green Button Jar. And you see her label there. And she's in Windsor. All right. And the last one I'm going to talk to you about is Koigu. I think you may have seen or heard of them before. Koigu it turns out, well, I have some, and I'm almost positive I ordered this from a yarn shop in the Toronto area. Where Koigu is located, I don't know. It's just obvious that she's Canadian, and it's koigu.com. And it turns out, and I'll show you the name so you know what I may be saying it wrong. She is basically what you'd call a wholesaler. In other words, when you're on her site, she shows you the yarns that she has. There's quite a long list of different yarns, plus roving. And then she tells you where they are located. And I think this is one called a KPP. Can't find it on here. Koigu Premium Merino, 170 yards. So the type is so small on here. Made in Canada. Oh, Chatsworth, Ontario. Well, I wish I'd seen that earlier. I would have showed it to you on the map. It's going up towards the Owen Sound area. See if I can indicate. So it would be up into this area, going towards Georgian Bay. Okay, so Koigu is a site you can go and look at, see the types of yarn she has. Big variety. I couldn't begin to make the list. And then she tells you, with some yarn, she tells you where that yarn can be found. But she definitely has a list of stores that carry her yarn. So that was a very unusual list that I had for you today, because there weren't too many that were major dyers, but definitely next week I have some bigger names like Tangle Poet, for example, and so on. So that was a start on our Ontario list of hand dyers, and I think that's where I'm going to call it for now. I hope you found some of that interesting. Once again, I want to show you this one because this is a line that's new to me. I didn't talk about it because I only just received it and I forgot to put it on my list. And honestly, she bought this in a yarn store, and I have no way of knowing if this yarn dyer is Canadian or not because I haven't looked it up. And it doesn't, oh yes, proudly made in Canada. So that's another one, Yarn from Heaven. So maybe next week I will add this into my list of Ontario. Well, I don't know if it's Ontario, proudly made in Canada. It could be made in any one of the provinces. So I will look it up and I will tell you about that next week. So that brings us to the end for today. I've filled your ears for long enough. I just want to remind you that we're getting near the end of the month, and your mal items need to get sent to me. I have a very busy next weekend, which is the 29th, and then on the 31st is the slideshow. And I think I asked for your entries to come to me the 28th, but I'm going to be out of town the 29th. I'm having company on the 30th. So if you can get your items to me earlier than the 28th, the 27th would be a better date. I should have given that in the first place. That would be much appreciated. Then I could do some work on it on the Wednesday before I go out of town on the Thursday. So that's it. Next week, we're going to talk more yarn from Ontario, and hopefully I will have a completed object again next week, and I can show you the blanket that I've chosen to work on next. So have a good week. I hope you, for all those that are in Canada, I hope you had a good long weekend. We just finished Victoria Day. I was going to talk more about that, but I'm not. And for my American friends, I know you have Memorial Day coming up this weekend, so I hope you have a great long weekend. And I will see you all back here next Thursday to see more Ontario yarn. And until then, happy hooking.